What is up, everybody? Welcome to the MMA Engine and welcome to Probability for UFC Nashville. We have Corey Sandhagen going against Rob Font. We have a very, very good 11-fight card, a card where we've had a couple short notice replacements, a couple pullouts, a couple cancellations, but still a very, very good card overall. I was telling Weezy before the show, there's only one fight on this card that is plus money to end inside the distance. So the bookies are expecting a lot of violence, and hopefully you do get a lot of violence on this card. I'm here as always with Uncle Weezy. Weezy, what is up? You looking forward to some UFC Nashville to kick off August?
Yes, I am. This is a really interesting card because, there's two fights on the main card that don't make a lot of sense. Lopez versus Tucker and Bozer versus Kamer. Those are main card fights. And while that is happening, we've got Durden Hadley is an undercard fight. Billy Quarantillo versus Damon Jackson is an undercard fight. Jeremiah Wells versus Carlston Harris is an undercard fight. Kyler Phillips versus Hani Barcelos is an undercard fight. So this is one we're going to just really have to watch from the very first fight on because, it may not be like the top heaviest card that we've had all year, but I'll tell you, man, from top to bottom, this thing is very consistent and very good. And when we have good fighters going up and down a card, means we got good sample sizes, and it means the data is going to be a lot more helpful to us. So let's hope that this prop template identifies some spots for us today.
Yeah, it's a really good card. A lot of close fights, though. Outside of the main event and the co-main event, there's a lot of closely lined fights, a lot of fights that can go either way. A lot of very interesting stylistic matchup, striker versus grappler matchups. Should be a very good card overall. Before we get into it, if you guys can please leave a like on the video, subscribe here to the MMA Engine. It is always much, much appreciated. We always appreciate you guys hanging out as well. We got Dix Insider, first one in the chat. What is up? We got J-Bone. We got Victor de Jesus. We got Kiwi, Tupac. We have Daz, and we got Rob. What is up, everybody? We appreciate y'all hanging out. If you guys could smash the like button. Yeah, I have no bets on this card yet, Weezy, but I have my notes out. And I will not be writing I love Liang Na like I did last night. I'll actually be taking serious notes this time, and I'm sure we're going to find some spots throughout the duration of the show. So let's get into it, Weezy. What do you say?
Let's do it, man. Let's find some spots here.
All right, so Bet Online's order is all the order is all messed up this week. What do you have for the first fight of the night?
Let's go with Osborne versus Almabayev.
Okay, so Osborne versus Almabayev. We have the over/under is set at 2.5 rounds. So the over 2.5 is minus 127 currently on Bet Online. The under 2.5 is minus 103. The fight goes the distance plus 100. The fight doesn't go the distance is minus 130. Shout out to our guy Propaholic. I don't know if he's in the building yet, but he got the under 2.5 rounds at like plus 155. So he beat some serious line movement there. I would have probably liked it there. But at this point, this is kind of a fight we talked about last night where I kind of just want to sit back and watch this one. I think Almabayev looks like the real deal, but he is making his debut here. He has taken a lot of steam on the money line. He's a guy that he can absolutely finish fights, but he's not a guy that's going out there really forcing the finish. He'll definitely take his time. He'll get takedowns. He'll stay safe on top. And if that finish does present itself, he will go out there and get the finish. So I don't know. I don't really have a strong lean whether this fight does go the distance or not, but typically Ode Osborne fights do finish inside the distance, which kind of would make me like that plus 155 that prop got. But at this point, I'm not sure I love it as much. Weezy, what's sticking out on the first fight of the card?
So Ode Osborne, as a professional, 5 of his 7 fights at the UFC level have finished inside the distance. 8 of his 10 fights outside the UFC have finished inside the distance. So 13 of 17, a really good, almost 80% of his career fights are finishing inside the distance. But check it out. If we go to fight doesn't start round 2, Brady, 5 of 7, the same number here as fight doesn't go to decision, and 7 of 10 compared to 8 of 10 here. So while 13 of his 17 professional fights have finished inside the distance, 12 of his 17 pro fights have finished in round 1. So do I want to bet an under 2.5? I think I'd rather just bet a fight doesn't start round 2 if I'm on the violence side. And I think that Ode Osborne, obviously, he's explosive. If that dude catches you with something, he's probably knocking you out. And he's super long for the division. So I could see Almabayev walking into a knee if he takes a sloppy shot from way out, and he does kind of shoot from way out. But also, if you go and you watch that Brian Kelleher versus Ode Osborne fight, which was Ode's UFC debut, you see Kelleher kind of take him down pretty easily, gets to a pretty dominant position and chokes him out. And Almabayev is a guy who kind of gets his finishes via rear naked choke. So I could see potentially him getting an early finish as well. But I'm leaning under here. Obviously, when only 2 of 7 of Osborne's fights have seen the scorecards at the UFC level, and we're not horribly overpaying when we compare the implied probability of the line to the divisional benchmarks here. I think I would favor the violence, but it might be something where I wait until later of the week, see what an under 1.5 is, see what a fight doesn't start round 2 is, and see if we could find a much bigger plus money number that might make it a little more worthwhile to bet.
Yeah, I would lean under, but probably gonna stay away at this point. Yeah, but there was an eight fight stretch with Ode where he had first round finishes. It was like 8 in a row, which is crazy for a flyweight. So I think this fight is probably violent, but nothing I'm really running to the window for. Propaholic, what is up? I gave you a little bit of a shout out for getting that plus 155 on the under, which was an incredible line there. All right, let's move on to the next fight. We have Cody Durden. It's the Durden fight, right?
Yeah, that's what we're going to go with.
All right, Cody Durden going against Jake Hadley. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 minus 125. The under 2.5 is minus 105. The fight goes the distance plus 105. The fight doesn't go the distance is minus 135. Another flyweight fight here, Weezy. And for me, I personally think that if Durden wins this fight, I kind of see it being more so a decision. We've seen Hadley taken down very easily. We've seen him stuck on bottom. But if Hadley wins, I kind of see him snatching up a neck or an arm here. So I don't know. If I like the violence, I'm probably taking a look at Hadley by sub or inside the distance. And if I like Durden, I'm probably taking a look at the decision prop. What's sticking out to you on this one in terms of the numbers, Weezy?
Yeah, so you can see that these overs here are underpriced according to the benchmark, which means that obviously the bookies are shading this one a little bit more towards violence. And why not? Jake Hadley, 2 of 3 fights in the UFC, finishing inside the distance. Cody Durden, 3 of 7. So Cody Durden's right at about the divisional benchmark for violence at about 43%, and Jake Hadley's above that, so 50% of their combined fights are finishing inside the distance. And both of these guys are fairly dangerous on the feet, although I would really lean Hadley on the feet. And then Durden's a good minute winner, and Hadley is a good moment winner with the grappling. He's a very good submission grappler. He gets to people's backs, and he can use his submission attacks from his back to actually work for sweeps, work for submissions from there, work for stand-ups. So I think he's very dangerous on the ground. I think I would probably have to lean violence on this side, but where it's priced, I'm not running to the window, but I'm sure as hell not running into the window to bet overs in a Jake Hadley fight. Not at plus 105 for the fight goes, not at minus 125, for the over 2.5. So this is one on a time prop perspective that I'm kind of staying away from. Yeah, I'm looking at maybe a Hadley inside the distance, maybe a Hadley by sub, or Durden by decision.
Yeah, I was also looking at Hadley finish only, but you'll never believe what it is.
Oh, no, I looked. Minus 325, is that where it is? Yeah, I saw that. That licks. That's awful.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I know. I was like, come on, man, because I was like, oh, I wonder what the finish only is, for this one. They're on to it. Bet online, Brady, they're such a sharp book.
They are.
If something kind of sticks out like a sore thumb, they're not going to go out of their way to give you a good price on it. And what it really kind of does, what you can use Bet Online for, because even though a lot of their props do lick, and lick hard, what it's telling you is like, hey, our sharp guys who are making this line, they don't want you betting this here. So go see what it is somewhere else. And if they give you a better price, then you can maybe take advantage of it. But yeah, they're onto it, dude. They know that the finishing equity in this spot is on the Hadley side. And I think even Hadley inside the distance is like plus 120, which is a terrible number for a flyweight fight. It's a terrible number, but they're just onto it.
Wait till you see what a strawweight inside the distance line is later in the show.
Oh, I know, man. I know, man. And it's not like Bet Online opened it in crazy range. I mean, just the money has been coming in on that. Let's take a look at some prize pick stuff for this one, huh? What do we got here? We got Hadley with 41.5 significant strikes here, Brady. Let's get that. So let's see here. Men's 125 pounds, significant strikes. What was it? 41.5? So 43% of the time the winning fighter gets more than that in the flyweight weight class. Let's just get that over. 24% of the time the loser gets more than that. So it's about a 34% chance that a winner and the loser combined get over 41.5 significant strikes. And this is a fight that I really do see a lot of grappling here, Brady. You know, Durden's a wrestler. Hadley's a submission grappler. And on the feet, Hadley really pressures. So I kind of feel like Durden's not going to like that pressure. And what's he going to do when the pressure gets too much? He's going to shoot. And Hadley's got terrible takedown defense. And he's got a lot of submissions off his back and from the top. He loves to grapple. So under 41.5 significant strikes for Jake Hadley, I think that could be a pretty cheeky play this week. I mean, only 34% of flyweight fighters get more than 41.5 significant strikes in a 3-round fight. In a 3-round fight, Brady.
I can dig it. A fight that does probably primarily play out on the mat. Rob's saying we need more 5-unit max bets. I don't think you're getting that one from me this week, but maybe in the future. Rob, what is up?
I like Tatiana Suarez this week.
Oh my!
But not as a max bet. I just think she's going to win.
Same here. The line is coming down, so we'll see. But max betting a WMMA fight.
No. That was not financial advice, people. That was a joke. Okay, we're not max betting that. I don't think you should either. But I'm really excited to see Tatiana back. But yeah, hey, under 41.5 significant strikes, man. I like that one for that fight.
Yep, sounds good to me. I agree with that one. All right, Weezy, let's move on to the next fight we have. I can't believe this fight is so down low on the card. I mean,
we riot if this is not if they put Alexa Kamer versus Tanner Bozer on the main card, Brady, instead of Billy Quarantillo versus Damon Jackson, we riot.
Yeah, I mean, because what's going on?
Like Kent State back in the 70s, man. I'm telling you, late 60s. Kent State. That we're gonna get nutty.
All right, we might have to. We have Damon Jackson going against Billy Quarantillo, like the best fight on the card, and they need to move it to the main card, and I'm sure they will. Like, come on, the over under set at 2.5 rounds, the over 2.5 -110, the under 2.5 is -120. The fight goes is +115. The fight doesn't go is -145. So I've not pulled the trigger on anything yet, but I am taking a very, very, very hard look at the fight doesn't go at -145, and I know you are already on the under, Wheezy. So I'm assuming we're liking violence here.
Yeah, we have to, right? I mean, it's a Billy Quarantillo fight, and he's fighting Damon Jackson. So Damon Jackson has been finished in 100% of his losses, and Billy Quarantillo puts on the craziest pace that I've ever seen. Let's get the numbers up here on this guy, Quarantillo. What is this guy Quarantillo on? Right? Are his lungs did they go all the way down to his knees or something? How the hell do you throw 23.69 distance strike attempts per minute? Please tell me, without dying in there. And he gets more and more volume as the fight goes on. I mean, he doesn't get tired at all. So Quarantillo has a pace that breaks dudes, and Damon Jackson has been broken in every single one of his professional losses. 4 knockouts, 1 submission. And then you look at a guy like Damon Jackson, who's 15-1 to the sub in his career. If this fight gets to the ground, and we do know that Billy Quarantillo only 58.6% takedown defense, he's been controlled for 26% of his UFC career. We kind of saw Alexander Hernandez go out there in the first round, take him down like 3 times and put him in some really bad spots. So just stylistically, Brady, I love violence in this spot. A Damon Jackson sub, a Billy Quarantillo finish. later in the second round, early in the third round, right? But also you can see Quarantillo's fights have finished inside the distance 5 of 8 times at the UFC level. For Damon Jackson, it's 7 of 10. So 2/3 of 12 of 18 fights at the UFC level in a good sample size, finishing inside the distance. We're only paying 59% on the line, and these guys are going to, are finishing inside the distance at a 23.29% rate, better than what the division does as a whole. So it's two violent guys. You're getting an underpricing when you compare that 67% finish rate to the 43% finish rate of the division, and you're getting a 7.5% discount when you compare that 18 fight sample size, 66.67% finish rate, to the implied probability of the -145 line at 59.18%. Fight doesn't go to decision. Potential parlay piece, potential big bet this week, I think. And the under 2.5 at -120. I got it at -105. I regret that I didn't go heavier, but now that it's moved, I think I would rather go, if I'm going to add on Brady, I'm going to go with fight doesn't go instead of the under 2.5. Just get those extra 2.5 minutes, because we know that Quarantillo never gets tired or never stops trying to break his opponent's face.
Yeah, I like the fight doesn't go, and that probably will be my first bet of the card. And if anybody has Sport Interaction, which I believe is a Canadian book, they are hanging a +100 under 2.5, which I would be on that as well if I was living in Canada.
Yep, of course I would too.
Heck yeah! All right, so that should be a violent fight, and that is a spot that is.
Brady,
yep.
let's look at some prize picks, shall we?
Ooh,
we got this. We got this shiny new toy, so let's use it. So let me go to the featherweight division here, and let's see what we have for prize picks props here.
They probably have something crazy for Billy Q strikes, man.
Significant strikes is 72.5, right? So we can go to the template here. 72.5 significant strikes right here. Let's zoom in. Only 22% of fighters get more than that when they win. 9% of the losers, so 16% of fighters overall go over that number, 72.5 significant strikes in a 3-round fight. But if we also look at Quarantillo's numbers here, how many times has he landed more than 72 significant strikes? That's Damon Jackson. He got it against Hernandez in only 2 rounds. Yeah. He got 164 significant strikes against Burgos in 3 rounds, 100 against Benitez, 84 against Tucker, 79 against Nelson, 74 against Kilburn, and then 49 against Spike Carlisle. But here's the thing, Damon Jackson's gonna wrestle him. Yeah. Because if Damon Jackson just stands in front of him, I mean, he's gonna break before Billy breaks, unless he lands like a spectacular knee like Edson Barbosa did. But Billy's not going to be shooting in for takedowns against Damon Jackson here. So I think that there's a really good chance that he actually does cover that number, even though it's really high, even though traditionally people don't get that number. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 have been over 79 of his 8 fights. So it's 62.5%. For Quarantillo. So I think that that's a pretty decent one. And I've already played Brady the under 12.5 minutes for fight time for Billy Quarantillo here. I think that's a really good looking spot as well.
Yep, there we go. I think I'd prefer probably the fight time instead, because like Glimbot's saying, if this fight does go the distance, it's probably Damon Jackson via top control across 15, because he's not outstriking Billy. Nobody's outstriking Billy Q unless you knock him out like Edson did.
Yeah, or unless you're just like a phenomenal boxer with a massive Burgos, reach advantage, exactly like Burgos did, because Burgos is somebody that can actually get punched in the face about 150 times and still stick and move, and still hold his form. So, there have been some bad matchups. Gavin Tucker actually matched Billy Quarantillo's pace. So, that was an interesting one as well. Quarantillo fights are very, very interesting, and everyone's a little bit different.
Absolutely. And Fight Talk only is going to make us a graphic for the PP this week. There we go.
I love it. Yes, let's put it together, man.
Heck yeah. All right. Let's move on to the next fight. We have, I think, on paper, the second most violent fight on the card. We have Carlston Harris going against Jeremiah Wells. We have the over/under set at 2.5 rounds, the over 2.5 plus 135, the under 2.5 minus 165. The fight goes the distance plus 160. The fight doesn't go the distance is minus 200. The only thing that kind of concerns me here is I think both guys are very dangerous everywhere. I think Wells obviously has a ton of power. I think Harris has sneaky power. I think both guys have a good submission game. But the thing that worries me about this price is just the durability of both guys. Jeremiah Wells, next level durable. He showed that off in the Semmelsberger fight where he got dropped twice, and Semmelsberger couldn't get him out of there. He's never been finished in 15 fights. Carlston Harris has been finished twice, but one of those was against Shavkat. So this is one where I do probably expect violence, but I don't know if I'm running to the window for it. Weezy, what's sticking out to you on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I would be terrified to bet overs in this fight. Absolutely terrified. I mean, even though they're underpriced by 11.6% for the fight goes, 9.36% for the over 2.5 when you compare it to the divisional benchmark. Only two of these guys, 8 fights, have went to decision. And what was the most recent one for Wells? Didn't he get dropped like 3 times?
Yeah, by
Semmelsberger. Like that fight could have ended so many times. And then Wells was putting Semmelsberger in bad spots on the ground. That would have been a butt puckerer. Even though you would have cashed, the fight goes to decision. It would have been like, man, that was close, So, I mean, I kind of feel like this is going to be a situation where somebody's getting a finish. Would you be shocked if this fight went to decision?
No.
Really? You think Carlston Harris might like really just kind of like hang on him? Because we've seen him do that, right? We've seen him kind of like put dudes up against the fence and just like kind of like get to their back, put them in bad spots where they can really only play defense. But I don't know, man. I think one big shot from Jeremiah Wells. When we see Carlston Harris lose fights, it's usually because he's getting sparked in the first round, like he did against Al-Salawi, like he did against Shavkat. And we know that Wells can finish fights like that. And then also with Harris, he's a guy that really can take advantage of any kind of grappling mistakes you make. And if you get tired, he'll darce you so fast. So I could see either one of these guys getting a finish. I could see the fight doesn't go to decision, potentially being a parlay piece. Yes, it's overpriced by about 17% when you compare the price of the line to the divisional finish rate. But when you compare these guys' finish rate to the division, it's 25% better in an 8-fight sample size. And we're still getting a discount at a 2/3 line here at 66.67% when we compare it to their 75% combined finish rate. I also think stylistically, this fight does bring violence. So I like the fight doesn't go to decision, minus 200. I might put that in like my greasy 4-legger this week. I think that's a decent plus EV parlay piece this week.
Yeah, I think I like Glenn's bet here. The under, I think I might take a look at the under 1.5 because I think this fight might end early, and if I can get that at plus money, I might take a look at that.
So under 1.5 or fight doesn't start round 2, Brady, in my opinion, and Glenbot's opinion, in your opinion, they're way better bets.
Yeah.
Because it's just so much easier to see a finish in the first 7.5 minutes of this fight than there is to see it in the second 7.5 minutes. And in my opinion, even that you look at fight doesn't start round 2, 5 of 8 for these guys. So I mean, when you're getting something like plus 150 on that, let's say, that's a 40% implied probability, and it's a 62.5% combined under 2 rounds rate. So definitely a good spot there. I think that these lower violence props like the under 1.5 and the fight doesn't start with round 2 are going to be much better values than the fight doesn't go or the under 2.5.
Yeah, if I can get an under 1.5 at plus money, I'll probably take that. I think I like that more than the fight doesn't go at minus 200, but I think both can obviously hit there. Probably on the fight to end by knockout there. Yeah, these guys are probably going to stand and bang for the most part.
Yeah, they might, but they're both really talented submission grapplers too. And Harris has got really good chokes. I mean, really good chokes. So I would rather I wouldn't fuck around with this fight. Both of these guys have got power, but they're both really good submission grapplers as well.
Yep. Wells, Renzo, Gracie, black belt, and like you said, Harris, incredible grappler himself.
Yeah.
Just a lot of finishing opportunities. I mean, both guys can knock each other out. Both guys can sub each other. So that's why we're getting a fight. Doesn't go decision line at minus 200 there. All right. Anything for prize picks on this one, or?
Yeah, let's have a look. So for prize picks, we've got Wells. What's that?
What's the fight time for the
10 minutes for Wells is the fight time.
Kind of like that.
Yeah, I do too. And we've got a 1.5 takedowns for Jeremiah Wells, which is interesting. Let's see how many takedowns does Wells have.
Had like 20 against us over.
Yeah, but he didn't wrestle until he started getting sparked. Yeah, he did have 7. He's had 7. He's averaging 3.93 per 15 minutes. But Carlston Harris is averaging being taken down 0.61 times.
And it was against Shavkat.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah. Oh God, Shavkat is just a killer. Yeah, I don't necessarily know about the takedowns. But let's look at significant strikes too, because it'll probably be a small number. 34.5. Has he ever landed more than 34.5 significant strikes? Let's see. 36 against Semmelsberger, and that was in a fight that went 3 rounds. The other one, 7, 15, and 21.
Wow.
And Carlston Harris, see how many times he's absorbed more than that. He absorbed 51 against Gooden in a fight that went the distance. Then it was 13, 6, and 1. So, and then if we also look at, oh, damn it, I hate when I do that. Okay. Prize picks, 170, 36.5 or 34.5 significant strikes, 53.97% of winners, 37% of losers. So 45% of fighters actually go over 34.5 significant strikes. So actually kind of like the under for the significant strikes for Wells there.
Yep, I like it as well. And I like that under 10 minutes, I think, is a solid look too.
Yeah, absolutely. Agree there too.
All right, 2 more spots to stick out on prize picks. Let's move on to the next fight. We have Kyler Phillips going against Hayani Barcelos. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 is minus 185. The under 2.5 is plus 155. The fight goes minus 150. The fight doesn't go plus 130, which, like I said earlier, it's the only fight that is plus money to end inside the distance. I personally don't really see a finish in this one. Nothing's really sticking out to me from a time prop perspective. Kyler Phillips has shown cardio issues in the past, as has Hani Barcelos. Barcelos is coming in here on short notice. Just a weird fight overall. But Weezy, what is sticking out to you on this one?
Well, we've got a 14-fight sample size for these guys. So I'm looking. Well, we've actually got a trifecta bet, Brady. We've actually got a trifecta bet now. It's one of the most pathetic trifecta bets I've ever seen. It's only 3.6% here, 3.6% here, and 0.03% here. But that's better than nothing. I mean, like, if we're looking, it's plus 155. Barcelos sparks some dudes sometimes, and we've seen him in fights that have went to decision be in trouble, have dudes in trouble, and just not quite get the finish. And we know that Kyler Phillips is also very explosive, very dangerous. So, I mean, if there's one bet that's sticking out under 2.5 at plus 155, because 42.86% of their fights have finished under 2.5 rounds, we're only paying 39% on the line. We're only 42% or almost 43% of bantamweight fights finish under 2.5 rounds. We're only paying 39. And these guys are going under 2.5 rounds at the same rate the division is. So it's a plus money, very, very, very small trifecta bet, but really these lines are pretty damn well priced. You know, I don't really love the overs. I don't really love the unders. And I think the bookies did a perfect job of setting these lines to where you would have to really solely rely on your stylistic read for this fight.
Yeah, I agree with that statement. I think it's a pretty good price line. Glenbot saying 8 of their last 10 have went over 1.5 rounds. So when these guys are getting finished or getting finishes, that it does come late, apparently. Yeah, nothing's really sticking out on this one for me. We hit on the trifecta last week on the Holland Chiesa fight. That was pretty easy money, huh?
Yeah, that was very easy money. When as soon as he said, I started screaming, Darce, Darce, and then it was just over. I love that. That was so easy on the plus 125. Very easy bet. You got to love those trifecta bets.
Yes, sir. I love. I should. I'm sad I didn't smash it because my stylistic read like 100% added up with it. I only went 1 unit, but I also did like play the fight ends by sub and Holland inside the distance, so I still made some decent money on it. But you smashed it for 2 units, which was very good play there.
Yeah, that was a big part of my night, Brady, for sure. And then the Semmelsberger, when you said that opened at minus 160 while I was choking down flapjacks, I was like, not only does Brady call me and tell me he likes the line, I'm eating flapjacks, and making bets while eating flapjacks with butter and syrup is a plus EV move, ladies and gentlemen. Take it from your Uncle Wheezy. And that one hit too. Earl Smettich, third round knockout. Wasn't the way that I saw the fight ending, Brady, but who cares? It
Yep.
ended. We cashed.
There we go. I like it. All right, let's move on to this next fight. We have Ignacio Bahamondes going against Ludovic Klein. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 minus 145. The under 2.5 is plus 115. The fight goes to decision minus 120. The fight doesn't go to decision is minus 110. So we got a straight pick 'em here, Weezy, for two guys that are just super dangerous. Ludovic Klein, an 84% finish rate. Half of those finishes come by knockout, half come by sub. We have Ignacio Bahamondes with a 71% finish rate. These guys have been finished a combined 5 out of 8 times. Ignacio Bahamondes has been sub twice, as has Klein. So, yeah, both guys good finishers. Both guys have been finished. Weezy, what's sticking out to you on this one?
So these are kind of cut down the middle in terms of the vig is pretty evenly spread here. We got like 2% vig, and the fight doesn't go to decision. We got about 5% vig, right? So the bookies are just slightly shading towards the non-violence betting lines here, towards the overs. But really, they didn't shade it enough, in my opinion. Minus 120 for the fight goes. 60% of these guys' fights have went to decision in a 10-fight sample size, and we got a 54% number here. These guys are going to decision at a 10% rate than what the division does as a whole. And over here, it's even better. We got 3 of 4 fights going over 2.5 rounds here for Bahamondes, 4 of 6 for Klein. 70% of their combined 10 fights are going over 2.5 rounds. We're only paying 59% on the line, and it's just a little bit more overpriced than what the under 2.5 is when we compare it to the benchmark. And we see a nice fat 16% of their fights are going better than 70% compared to 53.4%. 16.6% difference here. These guys are definitely going over at a greater rate than what the division does, and at a greater rate than the price we're paying for the over. So the data likes the over 2.5 rounds here at minus 145. If your stylistic read is that you like violence in this fight, I don't think they're rewarding you enough for that stylistic read. I think you can get a little bit better price, because I see with the data where it is right now and with the stylistic read of this fight that this thing probably goes over.
Yeah, I might be taking a look at it like a sneaky fight ends by submission because, like I said, these guys have been finished 5 times, and 4 of those 5 times have come by sub. But Bauman has never been knocked out, and Klein's been sub twice as well. So if I can get fight ends by sub at like something stupid like plus 300, I'll take a look at that. But yeah, I think other than that, if there is no sub, I think this fight probably goes the full 15.
Yeah, I mean, well, they're both good knockout artists for sure. Klein can land a head kick. Bahamondes is a phenomenal kickboxer, but they both are sneaky with their subs. And I think Ludovic Klein, in particular, his submission game is very dangerous. So that's an interesting read. Let's see if we can find anything on the prize picks here. I'd be interested to know what the significant strike total is here. They got Bahamondes at 83.5, and that's a really high number. If we go 83.5, and this is going to be a lightweight fight, significant strikes 83.5. So only 11% of winners go over that number, and only 3.72% of losers. So 7.5 out of 100 go over 83.5 significant strikes in a fight. So that's a big number. So we're going to need to see basically Bahamondes covering that number and Ludovic Klein allowing that number a lot of different ways in order to have the balls to make that bet. And let's look at Bahamondes first. Bahamondes is landing 8.23 distance strikes per minute spent at distance, and his fights are at distance 88.5% of the time. So if he can keep this fight at distance striking range, make it a kickboxing match, and not knock out Ludovic Klein, he actually probably covers that number. But Ludovic Klein is only absorbing 4.08 significant strikes per minute at distance. So maybe he fought some lower level or some lower volume guys like Devontae Smith, like Trezano. But Bahamondes is going to stay very busy and throw a lot of volume. See, that's 17.79 distance strike attempts per minute. And Bahamondes has landed 99, 126, 105, and 112 significant strikes. So even at 83.5, a guy like Bahamondes in the style that he fights, if he keeps it standing, he probably actually covers that number. But it's a tough row to hoe. Has Ludovic Klein ever absorbed that many significant strikes in a fight? 4 of his fights have went the distance, and the most amount of significant strikes that he's ever absorbed is 71. So I guess the question is, Brady, which one of these guys has their way? Which one of these guys kind of leads the pace of the fight? If it's Bahamondes, I don't necessarily mind the over. If it's Klein that gets the pace, that sets the pace of this fight, then I like the under. But it's an interesting total there.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot, but like you said, if Bahamondes gets his way, he's gonna get it. But yeah, Klein fights are like a lot. They're slow paced. They're really, he really takes his time. He really picks his spots. So,
and he's dangerous too. So sometimes just because of that, it'll slow down the opponent, and maybe when the opponent knows that the other guy's looking to counter, it slows him down sometimes too.
Exactly.
So it's an interesting stylistic read there, but 83.5 significant strikes, a lot to cover.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to this next fight. This is my least favorite fight on the card. We got Tanner Boser going against Alexa Kamer. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 minus 140. The under 2.5 is plus 110. The fight doesn't go minus 115. The fight goes minus 115 straight. Pick him here. I don't know what sticks out to you on this one, Weezy.
I mean, the books are shading it towards the over. We see that these are overpriced according to the benchmarks. We see that the unders are underpriced according to the benchmarks, but really only 4 of 12 of their combined fights have finished inside the distance. So that's only 33% in a 12-fight sample size. But we're missing a little bit of information about Kamer. This kid's been away from the cage for 2 years. So, unless something is just screaming at us to do something here, and it's not like we got like a plus money trifecta bet at plus 180, feels like a stay away. But all 3 of Kamer's fights have seen the scorecards at the UFC level, and he's a good boxer. And Tanner Boser is not going to try to take him down, and I don't think Kamer is going to wrestle either. So, but he might, because Boser doesn't like wrestlers. So, it's a fight that I'm not really interested in, and where these lines are priced, they're not something that's going to get me to the window here.
No, I mean, I hate this fight. I think it probably goes to decision. I think there's some interesting prize pick stuff for this one. I think like Boser fantasy score could be a good under. I think it's set at 84.5.
Yes, 84.5 fantasy points. So if we were to look at the template, Brady, or the analytics, the template is not made yet. The key is to get all this information on the same page.
Yeah,
and it's like making my head explode figuring out how I'm going to do it. But when I do figure it out, damn it, this thing is going to be awesome, because we're going to have all the analytics in one place, just like we do on the prop template for over-unders, but for all 4 things: for fight time, for significant strikes, for fantasy score, and for takedowns. So hopefully your Uncle Weezy can get that vision, that bit of divine intervention. I need to do what Archimedes did and take a bath, like his wife told him. Take a bath. And he was trying to figure out water displacement and shit. He got in the tub, the level of the water rose, and he's like, holy shit, That's the density thing that I've been working on. So he went running out of the fucking bathtub, and then he finished up the math problem that he had been working on for the last 6 months. Shout out Archimedes, another one of the ancient Greeks that made tremendous contributions to the way that we live our lives today. But
yeah,
and hopefully there could be another Greek, your Uncle Wheezy, who with this prop and prize picks template can actually change the way that gamblers shave the asses of their bookies. But like I said, Brady, we still got to figure out how to get it all in one place. And what the fuck were we even talking about anyway?
We're talking about the Bozer fantasy score, I think.
Okay, so Bozer fantasy score. So for prize picks fantasy score, and where do they have them at?
84.5.
84.5. All right, so 68% of winners get over that number, and only 1% of losers. So if you think that there's like a 50% chance that Kamer wins this fight, then like the expected value that this guy actually gets there is probably in the neighborhood of 33%. You know, and Tanner Bozer, they're gonna box, and in prize picks, you know, stand up, I think, scores more points than ground time. So, yeah, I don't know if I have an opinion either way about that one. I could see him going over. And what do they have for significant strikes?
Significant strikes, and well, I'm actually picking Kamer to win for what it's worth, but just like
then you would love, dude. You're gonna love that under then.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. The under, because I'm actually picking Kamer for the upset, just banking on potential improvements over the last 2 years. But significant strikes, I think the more probably makes sense for Bozer here. 57.5
seems
kind of low for a fight they're gonna strike for 15 minutes.
Well, I mean, only 28.5% of winners get over that number, only 13% of losers. And in 1,558 fighters that have fought 3-round fights in the UFC, only 20.73% have went over 57.5 significant strikes. But if we look at Tanner Bozer and we look at Kamer and how many times they're landing that many and absorbing that many, I'm sure it'll be a much larger number. So Bozer has landed that many 62, 68, 93, 3 different times.
Wow.
And Kamer has absorbed more than that 70 only once. So,
yikes.
Like I say, we got to get all these numbers in one place, and then your Uncle Wheezy can like finally surpass Archimedes in the greatness of mathematicians.
Yes. All right. Yeah, this fight sucks. I agree with Propaholic, but let's move on to the next one, a fight that will not suck. We have Gavin Tucker going against Diego Lopez. The over 2.5 -110. The under 2.5 is -120. The fight goes +130. The fight doesn't go is now -160. It was -150, but looks like money's coming in on the fight doesn't go. So this is one where I was actually looking at potentially the finish only for Diego Lopez, because I could see a scenario where Gavin Tucker is out there being the minute winner. But the finish only is -260 for one Diego Lopez. So they're kind of all over it. What I might look at is maybe like a Lopez inside the distance or something like that. But from a time prop perspective, nothing really sticks out to me. Weezy, what's sticking out to you on this one?
Well, so like the last time we saw Gavin Tucker in the cage, it was, let's see. It
was a long time ago. Danny
2 years ago?
Sparked him, yep.
Where the hell is that? Why don't I have Tucker up here? There, okay, so yeah, it's all the way over here for some reason. Yeah, so Tucker's been out of the cage for almost 2.5 years. And then the last time we saw him in there, he was in there for 15 seconds and he got sparked by one punch. And we look at, these guys' last few fights, 3 of 5 for Lopez and 2 of 5 have went to decision. So 50% are finishing inside the distance, 50% aren't in their last 10. But what we do have at the UFC level is Tucker's been over 2.5 rounds 4 of 6 times. Lopez 1 of 1, 71.43%. And it's only a 52% line. So we've actually got a trifecta bet here, Brady. But it's only a 7-fight sample size. So that, those numbers can change quite a bit with a finish, because then all of a sudden it's 1 of 2 and 4 of 7, which would make 5 of 9. So then it's only that number from 71 goes down to 55 if there's a finish in this fight under 2.5 rounds. So then all of a sudden, we can get big changes in this number here when there's small sample sizes for both fighters. So we can't absolutely just go nuts when we see, because normally if we saw 10 fights here, 10 fights here, this would be a big ass bet, but we just don't have enough of a sample size. But we know that Lopez is very tough. And then we know that Lopez doesn't really have the striking to put Gavin Tucker out like Dan Ige did. So I could see this being a back and forth war. The data absolutely prefers the overs here. And I think that because we've seen one of Tucker's fights finish in the last 2.5 minutes, and because he does put on quite a pace, that the over 2.5 at -110 is a pretty good trifecta bet here.
Yeah, I guess it all comes down to your stylistic read, because in my opinion, I just don't see any decision equity for Lopez. This guy has a 90% finish rate. I think if Lopez gets the job done, it's some type of finish here. I mean, this guy's not winning a decision against anybody, even outside the UFC. So I think if it goes 15, I think it's Tucker that wins, and pretty handily, honestly.
Yeah, we'll have to see, man, because the reason I'm not betting on this fight is because I have no idea what Gavin Tucker is going to show up here. I mean, he's not getting any younger, and the last performance is the most recent memory in our minds. But I'm surprised he's not a bigger underdog, because I expect people to be really overrating Diego Lopez in a loss. But, I mean, it was Evloev. And we all know how good Evloev is. He's top 5. I mean, whether or not top 5 guys will actually fight him is another story altogether. But, this guy is a stud, and Lopez had him in so many bad spots. So this is one that, even though the data is telling me to bet this trifecta bet in the over 2.5, I just have no clue what's going on with Gavin Tucker right now. So I don't think I can get to the window here.
Yeah, it's probably a fight that should be passed on, but I will probably be taking a look at Lopez by submission, which is plus 255 right now. Things be very live if this fight hits the mat, but yeah, it's probably a 1-800 gambler fight. And Diego Lopez is taking some steam as of late. He's now went from -130 to -150 overnight.
Yeah, I mean, this line's going to move a lot, I think, because we've got. I don't think people realize how old Tucker is. And how long he's been away from the cage, So it's so hard to get to a Gavin Tucker bet, because you really got to go on faith that he's going to look more like the guy that fought Billy Quarantillo than the guy that showed up and got sparked by Dan Ige and then took 2.5 years off.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's who knows what he's going to look like. Probaholic on the under at 104. What is it now?
-120 now, so he definitely beat some line movement there.
There you go.
I mean, like I said, the data loves it, but the stylistic read, I think, means so much more at this point, because of the layoff for Tucker, because of the age for Tucker, and because we saw how special Lopez actually looked in his last fight, and then his Dana White Contender Series fight that he lost. Turns out he lost to a guy in Joe Anderson Brito who's awesome, who's really good. So this guy Lopez might be a lot better than people think he is.
Yeah, and he has a really good haircut as well that I like.
Yeah, it's pretty weird, man. I
don't like it.
I don't know if I like it, dude. I mean,
like it. It fits him well.
Got a nice head of hair, but the shaved sides bothers me a little bit, and I don't like parted hair that much.
Fair enough. I think it fits him well, but I don't think anybody else can really pull it off besides him, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, when you throw in the neck tattoos, then that's a little bit of panache there, a little bit of extra that works sometimes. So
I guess so. But yeah, this next one's interesting, Weezy. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this one. It's the Dustin Jacoby Kennedy Nzechukwu fight. So the over under set at 2.5 rounds, the over 2.5 -135, the under 2.5 plus 105. The fight goes the distance -110. The fight doesn't go the distance is -120. So, yeah, kind of a weird one here for me, just because both of these guys are just super, super tough. What's sticking out to you on this one, Weezy?
I don't know, man. So let's just talk about what the bookies are doing. They're shading towards these overs here, right? Because we see that they're overpriced by about 11% when we compare that price of the line to the benchmark. 15% here. They barely made this any more expensive, so, or I'm sorry, there's so few 205-pound fights that finish in the last 2.5 minutes, so you'd almost always rather take that fight goes number because it's only 2% of the fights finished in the last 2.5 minutes. And it's because they're bigger dudes. They get tired. They're not going to finish fights in the last 2.5 minutes. So, I'm not betting an over in a Kennedy and Chekwu fight right now, man. Not the way that this dude is fighting, not with the tools that he has. The thing about the Jacoby takedown defense, we saw Ion Cutelaba absolutely destroy him with the wrestling. And Cutelaba is a better wrestler than Kennedy and Chekwu. But the difference between Cutelaba and Chekwu is that Chekwu can do it for 15 minutes. If Kennedy can wrestle anywhere near as effective as Cutelaba did, he's going to break him in the second round because Cutelaba had nothing left in the second round after that fight, while Kennedy would probably come out there and probably put on the same pace that he did in the first if he had that kind of success. So, I mean, I'm leaning stylistically, Brady, towards the unders in this fight because we've seen Kennedy get knocked out by not getting hit in the head before by Da Un Jung, a guy that Dustin Jacoby has knocked out. So they do have a common opponent here, and Jacoby beat Da Un Jung, and Kennedy lost to him in a fight that almost kind of looked like he took a dive.
Yeah.
Am I out of line there? It was such a weird knockout, man.
I don't know. It still doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah, it's just kind of weird. So anyway, stylistically, I'm kind of leaning the unders here. Both of these guys are pretty durable, though. But the way that these are priced, I'm not really seeing an advantage either way. I mean, I think I'd rather pick a side in this fight.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know about this one, whether it finishes or goes over. Because Dustin gets dropped a lot, but he recovers right away. And Roundtree didn't knock him out, but maybe that wasn't Bangkok ready Roundtree. So
yeah, and I mean, Dustin never was really even showing any signs that he was hurt in that fight, and Roundtree hits hard.
Dude, he ate some shots against Roundtree. I don't know how I was still standing, so I don't know. But if Kenny can get the grappling going, I could see maybe a sneaky Kennedy sub. I mean, this guy's sub game's looking really good lately, huh? So,
dude, he's got an 83-inch reach.
Exactly.
So it's like you can't even prepare for that. You got guys in the gym, they're 75, 76, 77. So you don't even know what it's like when a guy that's 6'5" with an 83-inch reach, if he gets a hook in on your back, he's going to be able to get chokes or get to positions that dudes that you train with would never be able to get to because they don't have those freakish physical gifts that Kennedy and Chekwu has.
Yep. Well, I made the mistake of passing on the sub too at plus 10,000 last time. Maybe I'll just go back to the well, man. I'll go back. Give me plus 10,000 again. Maybe he can sub Jacoby. Because Jacoby has been
subbed. Rivers Sportsbook, plus 10,000. We're calling you out. We want this. Give it to us.
Let's go. Jacoby has been subbed twice for what it's worth. So give me a plus 10,000. I'll take a shot.
Yeah, I think that's not the worst look, man. I mean, the time props really aren't sticking out on this one, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Weezy, let's go to the most violent fight on paper, and it's a strawweight fight. We have Jessica Andrade going against Tatiana Suarez. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 plus 165. The under 2.5 is minus 205. The fight goes the distance plus 195. The fight doesn't go the distance is minus 250. I saw the under 2.5 at minus 175, and I was like, what the heck? And then apparently people are actually betting it, and they bet it all the way to minus 205 here. I think this fight finishes. I mean, I think the unders hit. I think the fight doesn't go hits. It's just that is a very hefty price tag to be laying. Tatiana Suarez, last time I saw, she's currently minus. So she opened at minus 140 inside the distance, went to minus 160. And at that point, I was like, what is going on? And it even got hit to minus 165, Wheezy. So money's pouring in on violence, like I said, in a strawweight fight. I think it does finish, but this is probably one of the most overpriced violence lines ever. Has to be.
Yeah. I mean, I think I think you really got to look at your stylistic read here because I think when you just kind of like wiki cap the fight, you're like, yeah, I mean, this one should finish inside the distance. You know, we've seen Jessica Andrade, have troubles with grapplers before, and Tatiana Suarez is just a nightmare if you're having problems with grapplers. And Tatiana's a huge favorite to win the fight. And, 4 of her 6 fights have finished inside the distance that have been scheduled for 3 rounds. So she's finishing girls. And Jessica Andrade gets finished like way too much for my liking. But yeah, Brady, when was the last time we saw in a women's strawweight fight a 39% overpricing when you compare the only 31.8% of women's strawweight fights scheduled for 3 rounds finish inside the distance? The line is 71%. That's the price of the line. So right there, you're just really overpaying. This is kind of like for the crowd that if you're of the crowd that says just pick the winning bet and don't care about the price, yeah, then bet the fight doesn't go to decision because you're probably going to be right.
Yeah.
Tatiana Suarez is probably going to get to Jessica Andrade's back and sink in a rear naked choke at one point or another, right? And if she doesn't, I'd be kind of surprised. And if she doesn't and she gasses out or potentially gets hurt, I mean, we know Tatiana Suarez gets hurt all the time. If there's anybody that can finish Tatiana Suarez if shit goes tits up for her, it's Jessica Andrade. So, yeah, I mean, I can't do anything in this fight. As tempting as it is to bet a fight goes to decision at plus 195 for a women's strawweight fight, knowing that 68% of women's strawweight fights go to decision, and I'm only paying 34% on the line. That's very interesting. But yeah, these ladies don't go to decision at the same rate that the division does. That's for sure. So it's kind of gotten pushed so far that I don't really think that there's much that we can do here. What do we got for prize picks for this one? Let's see.
Take a look.
Tatiana Suarez, 109.5 fantasy score. Yeah, I mean, like, let's just see how many fighters actually get that.
You said 109?
109.5 in the women's strawweight division, too.
Wow.
109.5. How many clear that number? Only 30% of the winners. So it's like basically it's the expected value here is the implied probability. What's Suarez's line to win right now?
Just minus 350. It came down a lot.
So we'll call that 78%. So 0.78 times 0.3 is the expected value that she gets more points than that. But I mean, it's kind of hard not to picture her scoring less than that, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think I want to touch that. Where do they have her for significant strikes, though? That's an interesting.
The significant strikes is weird, though, because, in a lot of fights where she's on the ground, sometimes they're counting her strikes as significant and some fights are not. Like there was a fight where she was on the ground for like 13 minutes and they counted some of these as significant. Like they're inconsistent with it.
They really are. It depends on where they are and who's scoring the fights. But how many? What is the over under for her?
Let's take a look. So it is sitting at 40 and a half.
40 and a half. That's actually kind of a high number. 54.69% of strawweight fighters have went over 40.5. So that's actually, not a number that gets hit a lot. The winner only goes over that 64% of the time. So yeah, it does depend. But I mean, Tatiana's not standing with Jessica Andrade.
She's not, but she's covered that 3 out of 6 fights.
3 out of 6. Okay.
Yeah.
Now that's interesting. It's interesting, man. I don't know if I love any of the prize picks props. What do they have for takedowns? Or they're not even giving us a takedown number, are they? Or is it 2.5?
2.5. My concern would be like one takedown and Jessica just like quits, like she did in the Blanchfield fight. But
yeah, and Suarez can just get to your back, and then that's a problem because she gets rear naked chokes. So yeah, maybe the under for takedowns. I don't know. That's gutsy in a Suarez fight, but if you think she gets a quick finish, then she probably goes under.
It's a weird one, man. It's a weird fight.
It is. Not loving it from a prize picks perspective.
Yeah, I'm not really loving from any perspective, but maybe we'll get some better lines on a different book. But it's hard to justify laying minus 250 on a strawweight. I mean, it hits, but my goodness, that is wild. They're acting
Yeah,
like Liang Na's out here. I mean, we don't see Liang Na for another couple weeks, so
yeah, not for a couple of weeks, but I mean, it's just all downtime between now and then, Brady.
yeah, I guess so, man. All right, Weezy, it is main event time. If you guys have not already, be sure to smash the like button. We appreciate you all hanging out with us on a Monday. We have Corey Sanhagen going against Rob Font. We have the over-under set at 4.5 rounds. The over 4.5 minus 140. The under 4.5 is plus 110. The fight goes minus 110. The fight doesn't go is minus 120. So this is kind of a weird one because Corey Sanhagen, I was looking through his fights, and I think he has 9 wins in the UFC, and I think 7 of those 9 do come inside the distance. Both guys have never been knocked out, though, for what it's worth, but Font has taken a lot of damage throughout his career. He got destroyed by Jose Aldo, got destroyed by Marlon Vera, was able to survive, but, if Sanhagen does land a big knee or a big head kick, I don't know if he's going to survive that. Font is coming in here on short notice as well. I can really see this one going either way. I could see a 5-round war, but it wouldn't completely shock me if Sanhagen was the first one to completely put out Rob Font. Weezy, what is sticking out to this one from a numbers perspective?
Yeah, well, they're shading us towards the overs here. The fight goes overpriced by 13.5% compared to the 5-round benchmark, 16.66% overpriced for the 4.5 compared to the over 4.5 benchmark. But 6 of 8 fights for Font and Sanhagen that have been scheduled for 5 rounds are going over that number. I think one of the Sanhagen fights that was scheduled for was the Edgar fight scheduled? That wasn't scheduled for 5, was it?
No,
Okay.
no.
So I forget which ones that were scheduled for 5 finished for
Song
Sanhagen.
Yadong finished,
Oh, and that was by a cut.
and the Marlon Moraes, he head kicked him.
Oh yeah, Marais never makes it past a round and a half. So yeah, I mean, stylistically, look, I know the narrative is that Font is taking too much damage, and that he's been hurt, and that the durability is no longer there. The dude has still never been knocked out. And Corey Sandhagen's not a lights out power guy by any stretch of the imagination. If anybody lands a jump knee to somebody's chin, doesn't matter if you're a flyweight or a heavyweight, and Derek Lewis out there flying, throwing jump knees as if he is a flyweight. What athleticism that guy has. But I like the overs here. I mean, I think that they're not bad looks. Over 4.5 at minus 140, 75% of their combined fights going over 4.5, only 58% price of the line. And it's the same thing with the fight goes. I would lean the overs here. I would definitely lean the overs. Corey Sandhagen, very durable, and he's not this explosive power puncher. But I'd like to see, I could see an over 2.5, a fight starts round 4, being a good parlay piece this week because it'll be juiced up to around minus 200, but it'll be a lot more. I could see a finish in the 4th, 5th rounds of this fight, but probably not in the first 3.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Glenn and Glenn. I don't think it's so much of a hot take. I'm actually picking Corey to finish Font as well. So I'll be on probably Sanhagen inside the distance. Maybe it's a hot take, but I'm not getting hot take money for it because Sanhagen inside the distance is only plus 140, which is wild because you're right. Font has never been knocked out, but he has been dropped like 50 times against Aldo, and I just hated how he was reacting to shots. Like there were shots that were like barely landing, and Font was doing the stanky leg. It was not a great look. He's now 36 years old as well. I think this fight does get extended. I don't mind that over 2.5 call, but it's probably gonna be cheaper.
87.5. 7 of 8 of their combined fights have went over 2.5 rounds at the 5-round mark. So I mean, I think that's a pretty good one there.
Probaholic on the fight doesn't go. Yeah, I'll probably be on some type of violence, but more so on the Sanhagen side. We can take a look at Prize Picks real quick. Oh my gosh, Sanhagen significant strikes 120.5.
I've got 122.5 here.
Just moved. Wow.
Let's see. Let's refresh it.
I probably need to refresh mine. Mine's been up for a while.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, it did go down to 120. It's
Oh, it went
120 and
down.
a half.
Okay.
So we can go now, and your Uncle Wheezy's got this separated by 5 round fights too. So let's
Oh,
go to
wow.
men's 135, and we can go for significant strikes. Was what was it? 120?
120.5.
So 27.78% of winners have went over that number, 13.89% of losers. So in 15 fights, or I'm sorry, in 72 fighters, 15 of them have went over that number in 5 round fights. But the thing is that these guys are high volume strikers.
Yeah.
Sandhagen's landing 6 a minute. Font is absorbing 4. So if you just split the difference of significant strikes, if Sandhagen lands 5 a minute, at 25 minutes, that would be 125 significant strikes. But Sandhagen lands 6.9 at distance, and Font lands 4.5 or absorbs 4.5 at distance. So with Sandhagen's pace, he could potentially at 7 significant strikes per minute if Sandhagen's not mixing in the wrestling and if Font's not mixing in the wrestling. If they're both happy to box here, then we could see that number even, crested after going into the 4th round potentially. So, yeah, I think that's an interesting look. I mean, I think he probably might get over unless he gets a finish. But what do we got for fantasy score?
122 and a half.
122 and a half. All right. Oops.
A lot of points.
That is a lot. 122 and a half in 5 round fights. 0.5. Now, the winner gets over that 52% of the time. The loser gets over that 11% of the time. I wish I had my expected value formulas here, because what we're going to do is we're going to take that winning fighter's percentage and we're going to multiply that by the implied probability of the win according to his money line. And then we're going to take 1 minus the implied probability of the win. And you multiply that percentage times the losers, how many times the losers get more than that. You add those together and you get an expected percentage chance that fighter A goes over that number. And it's going to be such a great tool. Yes. But I don't have the formulas set up. But either way, yeah, I mean, I could definitely see Sandhagen doing that, because I don't see these guys wrestling much. And when you're getting 0.6 points per significant strike, and they've got you at 120 significant strikes, then you add, the point bonus there, you're looking at like 90 some odd points before any takedowns, before any knockdowns, before any submission attempts. So you stop a couple takedowns on Prize Picks, there's 6 points. So there's a number of ways to go over that number, but they got it set pretty high. I don't know if I'll be running to the window for that.
Yeah, I think it probably hits, but yeah, that is a lot of points. But yeah, we went through everything. Let's get ourselves a PP. Any parlay pieces sticking out?
Kind of like Wells versus Harris fight doesn't go to decision. I just don't see that one going the distance. But I mean, I also like Billy Q versus Jackson fight doesn't go to decision. Barcelos Phillips under 2.5 at plus 155 is a trifecta bet, but a very, very small one. Lopez Tucker over 2.5, a trifecta bet at minus 110. Bahamondes Klein minus 145 over 2.5 rounds. God damn, I don't really like a lot of parlay pieces on this card.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think any stuck out to me. Maybe I guess the Wells one.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some good plus, like Osborne Almabayev under 1.5 rounds. Quarantillo Jackson fight doesn't go to decision at minus 145. I think that's a good look. What would the fight doesn't go for Quarantillo Jackson parlayed with the fight doesn't go for Wells Harris look like?
Plus 153.
I kind of like that. Are there any other parlay pieces that stick out to you, dude? I mean,
if you want one that hits, it's the Andrade one, but that is just a ridiculous overpricing. But yeah, those two I like, the Wells and the Billy Q. I'll have violence on both those fights. So I agree with him.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, I'm probably going to be looking to see where that fight doesn't start round 2 opens
Yep,
for
and I'll be on the under
welfare,
one,
for the
one and a
under
half.
1.5 where that opens.
Yeah.
Those are really good looks in my opinion. But yeah, if I think the Wells Harris fight doesn't go and the Billy Q Jackson fight doesn't go is a nice little parlay there. And if you're one of the non-value crowd, yeah, throw the Andrade violence in there too. You might as well. I mean, that probably hits. That line is moving towards violence for very good reasons.
Yep. And shout out to Clint. I wish there was. I don't know if you have numbers to back this up or not, but he on his Total Takedown show, he's always talking about when there's these WMMA fights and they juice the under. Like the under typically comes through, and it's been that way for it was the Molly McCann fight, the Maverick fight last week. I don't know if you have numbers on that, but it seems to be more often than not the right.
Yeah, when you have like lines of the fight, programmed into the database, that could be something where
That'd be
you
nice.
really kind of take the analysis to the next level. Unfortunately, closing lines are not available where I got my information from. So that would be another step, but we got to first worry about putting together the rest of the prop template, the new prop template with the prize pick stuff in there.
Yes, sir. One step at a time.
Yes, let's do it one step at a time.
All right, Weezy. Well, we did it. We went through all 11 fights. We talked about some spots. What are your plans for this week for some content? I'm looking forward to seeing who shaves some ass this week.
Yeah, so tomorrow night, 10 o'clock Central Time, Just a Tip with Uncle Weezy. We're going to break down all 11 of these fights now from a tape study perspective. I'll give you my track bets for the week. We'll finish with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. Last week's ass shaving, Brady, meh. It was CJ Vergara. He won. He won kind of cleanly. I thought he outboxed Vinicius Salvador, but I really expected him to just walk forward, and he didn't. He stayed in the middle of the cage, and he kind of outpointed Salvador from a distance, a guy that was taller and longer than him. So good for him on that, but he didn't shave his ass, not even close. But we'll try to find a better one this week. And then Wednesday, I'm always doing the DFS show with Brady, and I'll be doing Ask Weezy this week. I didn't do it last week because I went on vacation, but this week we'll be doing that. And then the only thing left to do besides that, you got to stack cash tickets like flapjacks for this event, UFC Nashville. Let's hit some props. Let's hit some prize picks. Let's hit some money lines. Let's make the bookies cry this weekend.
Let's do it. I'll tell you who got their ass shaved last week. It was Marcus Rogério de Lima. He got his ass shaved. I don't think he landed a strike.
Yeah, I don't think he did either. Lewis dropped him with the first thing that he threw.
Yeah, so, that was an ass shaving. My goodness.
Yeah, it was. I actually cashed on the Derek Lewis money line at plus 195. That's one of the easiest plus 195 cashes I've ever had. Maybe the easiest
could have been
of my life.
Yeah.
I was laughing.
Yeah, that was wild. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. You can follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers, Instagram, DFS by the numbers. I just posted a main event breakdown, and then my full card breakdown will be out sometime tomorrow. Best of luck for UFC Nashville. We'll talk to you guys very soon. See you later.